Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. There's a dream inside of you, a vision that you've carried for too long. You've thought about it, you've prayed about it, you've talked about it. But now it's time to do something about it. Because here's the truth: thinking won't move you forward. Only action will. Too many people go to their graves with their songs unsung, their books unwritten, their businesses unstarted, their gifts untouched. Why? Because they were waiting for the perfect moment. Listen to me. There is no perfect moment. The perfect moment is the one you decide to act. Fear will whisper, "What if you fail?" But courage answers, "What if I win?" You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step. Once you start, the universe has a way of meeting you halfway. Every excuse you've been holding on to, too old, too young, not enough money, not enough time, those are nothing but chains you've placed around your own greatness. Break them. Smash them. Tear them down. Understand this: you weren't put here to live an average, safe life. You were put here to make an impact, to leave a mark that says, "I was here, I lived, and I gave it everything I had." So if there's something you wanted to do today, not tomorrow, step forward, take action, start small. If you must, but start. Because you are more powerful than your fears. You're stronger than your doubts and greater than your circumstances. And when you look back years from now, you'll say, "I'm glad I did," not "I wish I had." So many people talk about their dreams as if they're guarantees. They say, "One day, I'm going to write that book. One day, I'm going to start that business. One day, I'm going to get in shape." But let me tell you something, one day is not on the calendar. If you don't set a date, if you don't make a move, that one day will keep slipping away until you wake up and realize it's too late. A dream, in its raw form, is nothing more than imagination. It's an idea, a vision, a spark. But unless you attach action to it, it remains trapped in your head. And the world doesn't reward good ideas. It rewards execution. The marketplace doesn't pay you for what you think about. It pays you for what you actually do. Think about it. Some of the greatest inventions, businesses, and breakthroughs didn't come from people who simply dreamed big. They came from people who dared to act on those dreams. They rolled up their sleeves, they took risks, and they made moves when others were still waiting for the right time. The difference between a wish and a dream fulfilled is action. Dreams without action also become dangerous because they trick you into feeling accomplished without doing the work. You get excited when you talk about it. You feel inspired when you imagine it, but then you go back to doing nothing. That cycle creates frustration. Why? Because deep down, you know you're capable of more, yet you haven't proven it to yourself. When you take action, even small steps, you transform the dream from fantasy to reality. Writing 1 page a day turns into a book. Saving a little money each week builds into capital for your business. Showing up consistently at the gym reshapes your body. It's not the size of the action that matters at first. It's the fact that you start. So remember this: you don't get rewarded for the dream you keep locked inside your heart. You get rewarded for the actions you take to bring that dream into the light of day. If you want to separate yourself from the millions who only talk, be the one who actually moves. Because the world respects movers, not dreamers. One of the biggest lies people tell themselves is, "I'm just waiting for the right time." They say, "When I have more money, I'll start. When my kids are older, I'll start. When things calm down at work, I'll start." But here's the reality: there will never be a time when everything lines up perfectly. Life will always throw distractions, challenges, and responsibilities at you. If you wait for perfect, you'll be waiting forever. Think about it. Every single person who accomplished something great started under less than perfect circumstances. They didn't have all the resources. They didn't have all the knowledge. They didn't have all the support. But they started anyway. And because they started, they figured it out along the way. The path reveals itself through motion, not hesitation. The truth is, perfect timing is a myth we use to excuse our fears. It's procrastination dressed up as wisdom. We convince ourselves that we're being smart, that we're preparing, that we're waiting until we're ready. But readiness doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. You don't get ready and then act. You act, and through action, you become ready. If you look back at the decisions that changed your life, chances are they weren't made under perfect conditions. They were made when you took a leap, when you stepped out of your comfort zone, when you dared to move forward, even though you didn't feel fully prepared. That's the pattern of growth. Growth always requires a step into the unknown. Waiting for perfection also steals your momentum. Every time you say, "Not yet," you weaken your belief in yourself. You start to train your mind to doubt your ability to handle challenges. On the other hand, when you say, "Oh, let's go now," you prove to yourself that you're capable, and that proof builds confidence. Confidence doesn't come from wishing, it comes from doing. So understand this: there will never be a perfect day, a perfect moment, or a perfect setup. The only perfect time is now. Now is when you have the chance, the opportunity, and the responsibility to move. The people who win in life are not those who wait for the stars to align. They are the ones who create their own alignment through bold, decisive action. Every dreamer faces fear: fear of failing, fear of rejection, fear of looking foolish, fear of losing what they already have. Fear is part of the human experience. It's hardwired into us. But here's the truth: fear will never disappear. If you're waiting for the fear to go away before you act, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. Fear shows up whenever you step into new territory. It's your mind's way of protecting you from the unknown. But think about it: if you only live where it's safe, if you only do what's familiar, you'll never grow. Growth lives on the other side of fear. Everything you've ever wanted, every breakthrough you've ever dreamed of, sits behind that wall of uncertainty. And the only way through is action. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's moving forward in spite of fear. People who achieve greatness aren't fearless. They simply refuse to let fear paralyze them. They feel the same doubts, the same anxiety, the same voice in their head saying, "What if this doesn't work?" But they answer back, "What if it does?" That shift in focus changes everything. When you act with courage, you send a message to yourself: I am stronger than this fear. And once you've proven to yourself that you can move forward while afraid, fear starts to lose its grip on you. The next time it shows up, you recognize it for what it is: a sign that you're stretching, a sign that you're stepping closer to your potential. Many people let fear keep them small. They stay in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, situations that don't serve them, all because they're afraid of change. But let me ask you, isn't the pain of staying stuck worse than the temporary fear of moving forward? Fear may hurt for a moment, but regret lasts a lifetime. So when fear whispers, "What if you fail?" you've got to roar back, "What if I succeed?" Fear will always knock at the door, but you don't have to invite it in. Courage is a decision, and the moment you choose it, you unlock a new level of power, strength, and freedom that fear can never hold hostage again. One of the greatest illusions that holds people back is the belief that they must see the entire path before they begin. They think, "I need to know every detail. I need a full plan. I need absolute certainty before I move." But life doesn't work like that. You'll never see the whole staircase. You only see the first step, and it's by taking that step that the rest of the path begins to reveal itself. That's how progress works. You don't get clarity by waiting, you get clarity by moving. The first step might feel small, even insignificant, but it carries tremendous power because it creates momentum. Once you start, something shifts inside of you. You prove to yourself that you're serious, and that proof gives you energy to keep going. Think about a car stuck in neutral. It won't move no matter how much you press the gas. But the moment you shift into drive, even a slow crawl, you're in motion. And motion creates direction. That's what the first step does. It shifts you from dreaming to doing. It takes your idea out of your head and begins the process of turning it into reality. People often ask, what if my first step isn't perfect? The answer is simple, it doesn't have to be. The first step is not about perfection, it's about progress. You can adjust, you can correct, you can learn along the way, but you can't steer a parked car. You've got to start moving before you can refine your path. The most successful people you admire didn't start with everything figured out. They took a leap, made mistakes, adjusted course, and kept stepping forward. Every great journey began with a single step that might have looked uncertain or messy at the time, but it was still progress. The key is to begin, because nothing happens until you do. So don't underestimate that first phone call, that first note you write, that first dollar you save, that first workout you attempt. Small beginnings are still beginnings, and that first step, no matter how shaky, has the power to change everything because it moves you from someday to today. Excuses are the chains that keep people locked away from their true potential. Every time you say, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money, I'm too young, I'm too old, you're building the walls of your own prison. And the tragic part is, you're holding the key, yet you keep yourself locked inside. Excuses don't protect you, they trap you. The truth is, nobody has perfect conditions. The people who succeed are not the ones who had the easiest circumstances. They're the ones who refused to let excuses control them. They faced the same challenges, the same setbacks, the same lack of resources, but they made a decision. I will not let my limitations define me. That's the difference between those who move forward and those who stay stuck. Excuses feel comfortable in the moment because they take the pressure off. They give you a reason to delay, a justification for why you haven't started, a way to shift responsibility away from yourself. But deep down, you know the truth. Excuses rob you of progress. They sound convincing to others, but they sound hollow to your own soul. Think about it. History is filled with people who achieved greatness in spite of every excuse available. Some were told they weren't smart enough. Some grew up in poverty. Some started with nothing but a dream. Yet they refused to let excuses be the final word. If they had waited for the perfect situation, we would never know their names today. Every time you silence an excuse and take action anyway, you reclaim power over your life. You prove to yourself that you are not a victim of circumstance. You are the architect of your destiny. And once you adopt that mindset, excuses lose their grip because you've trained yourself to look for solutions instead of limitations. Excuses will always be there, whispering in your ear, tempting you to stay where it's safe, but they cannot hold you unless you accept them. The moment you reject excuses, you shatter the bars of that self-made prison and step into the freedom of possibility, where progress begins and greatness is built. Action is the spark that turns an idea into a fire. The moment you move, no matter how small that step is, you activate energy that wasn't there before. And here's the beauty of momentum. Once it starts, it's easier to keep going, just like pushing a heavy boulder. It takes effort to get it moving, but once it's rolling, gravity begins to work in your favor. The same principle applies to life. Many people overthink and paralyze themselves, waiting for motivation to appear. But motivation doesn't show up first, action does. Motivation is the byproduct of momentum. When you start moving, even in a small way, you feel progress, and that progress fuels you to keep going. Think about exercise. The hardest part is putting on your shoes and stepping outside the door. Once you start running, you may not want to stop. Or think about writing. Staring at a blank page feels intimidating, but once you write the first sentence, the next one comes easier. The energy of doing creates more energy. Momentum also builds confidence. Each action you take reinforces the belief that you can do more. It's not just about what you accomplish, it's about who you become in the process. You start to see yourself as capable, as consistent, as someone who follows through. That identity shift is what makes momentum unstoppable. On the other hand, inaction creates its own momentum too, but in the wrong direction. The longer you wait, the harder it feels to start. You begin to build a habit of hesitation, and hesitation turns into stagnation. That's why the fastest way to break fear, doubt, or procrastination is to move, because movement interrupts the cycle of delay. Action doesn't need to be massive to create momentum. It just needs to be consistent. A single drop of water doesn't carve a canyon, but drops over time create wonders. When you commit to taking action every day, no matter how small, you set in motion a force that compounds and carries you further than you ever imagined.